Ladies and gentlemen, we meet again with yet another episode of Insights from Inside powered by iGCB with another distinguished leader from our group, K. Srinivasan. He's President and Regional Head for UK and Europe markets. So KS, I'm really happy to have you here with us for the podcast.
Thank you, Mithu.
Great. So KS, you've spent a lot of time, almost 3 decades in the technology space and especially focusing on banking. Would you want to share your experience and how you've seen the space evolve?
Well, actually, my journey in the space of banking technology goes back to '96.
Wow.
And I spent many years in the US and then subsequently in the India market. And then I lived out of Dubai, and these days I'm living out of Frankfurt. And if I were to, kind of quickly recap as to how things have progressed way back in the late '90s to the early 2000s, to where India has made a remarkable progress, not just in the space of payments, but also in terms of providing financial services, flexibility, and then living in Dubai, UAE has actually pioneered many of the innovations in that space. And these days, I'm seeing that I'm in the market where open finance and prior to that, open banking. Europe and UK actually pioneered open finance and open banking. I'm saying it in the reverse, open banking and open finance.
Absolutely. Right. And I think it has evolved, especially in the last 5 years, right? Banks are a lot more open in adopting open banking. And in fact, they're looking at expanding their market space with this technology. So what has your experience been with some of the clients that you're working with?
Well, actually, if I look at, for now, let's focus about Europe and UK. Again, it's not one common market. EU is European Union, but then different countries are at different stages of maturity.
Of course.
In Frankfurt, I've experienced, my experience levels are a little different than what happens in the UK. And what I've seen is that in the last 5-8 years, the shift has happened from open banking to open finance. What it really means is the fact that there are 2 major regulatory initiatives that the European Commission has initiated. One is around the framework on how to access financial data, that is, they call it as FIDA. Then the second is there is a new initiative, which is the next step of PSD2, which is to PSD3. And then you have the Data Access Act as well. What it does is that open banking had content-based access. What PSD3 does is the ability for the thing to extend beyond open banking into a lot more knowledge about seeking information about beyond banking, let me put it this way, savings, deposits, investments, and it goes beyond the banking domain into multiple domains.
So I think it's great to know that regulators are coming up with supportive policies for banks to flourish and be able to offer innovative solutions and create a competitive edge for themselves, right? So how do you think you're able to support them? Are there any UK, Europe specific solutions or can they contextualize it?
All solutions must meet the regulatory standards of both UK and Europe. They are very, very stringent. And they are cuts across data, it cuts across security, it cuts across access to information, it cuts across customer privacy, consent. There are a whole lot of regulations around these, right? So what is important for any provider is to have solutions that are not just compliant to these requirements. It also meet the architectural standards of any financial institution. So there is on one part, there is a regulation. On the other part, the banks and financial institutions. I haven't seen this in any other part of the world as much as I've seen it in Europe and UK, which is the need and the focus on how good is your engineering, how good is your architecture, how good is your security, right? This is very important. What comes along with this is the ability for any provider to bring in a lot more understanding of the banking services domain. And that's where a company like us differentiates significantly over others.
Guess you touched upon ecosystems, right? What's our play on ecosystems?
So before I come to that, the importance of banks understanding the concept of ecosystems is very important. Revenue from ecosystems is going to be the single biggest driver for growth, not just for banks in Europe and UK, but also elsewhere in the world.
Right.
The reason is because otherwise there is disintermediation happening. Revenues are going elsewhere, customer relationships will go elsewhere. So banks and financial institutions would want to have a mechanism where they would like to have access to those relationships. They would like to have, they would like to have the customer relationships, regardless of whether it is a retail finance or an SME. So what really happens is, in which case, think about a case where you're a bank, right? And you're in a position where you can get not just a buyer and a seller onto the same platform, you're also in a position to offer any of your loan products to either of them. So the ability of all this to come together on one single platform is what banks would need. But banks don't have that expertise, because moment you have this requirement, what comes along with it is a challenges related to security. There could be fraud, there could be cyber attacks happening. So the safety becomes and the security becomes a very important aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Where does security become important? Because it could happen at the time. Any compromise can happen at the time of login, or at the time of onboarding. Let's say logically,
Absolutely.
at the time of onboarding, then at the time of login, at the time of aggregating information when you need to pull information from different ecosystem providers, and then of course on your day-to-day financial management for carrying out your day-to-day financial activities as well. So that is where the problem happens. So you need to have a platform that addresses all this, yet have all the required microservices and API that can actually pull information in a most safe and secure manner, which
Yes.
means that they need to have an ecosystem that is safe and secure. And that is where a company like Intellect brings it, the eMACH.ai, which is the largest open finance platform for the banks. So so these are the two examples why banks require a good, there is a need for them to definitely have a very strong ecosystem play, and a company like us can actually enable them to have this single platform that can enable their
Absolutely.
revenues from ecosystems.
And Kes, you alluded on a very interesting point, because I think what banks in UK and Europe need today is confidence in the solution.
Correct.
Confidence in the consultancy and the knowledge and expertise that as a technology player you can bring in. I think it's all about their creativity now on how they would want to leverage this ecosystem which has already been made available.
Correct.
Right? You have the security norms which are really binding them into a safe zone of really taking it to another level.
I would say that our eMACH.ai platform that powers the financial segment, particularly in
Right.
the retail financial segment, is UK and Europe compliant.
Absolutely.
When we say compliance to these standards, it's top notch.
Absolutely. So, just some learnings from what you've already been doing with some leading players in the space of open banking, open finance, and it's already working in action, right? Would you want to share some of the work that's already happening with leading banks in Europe?
Actually, very recently we've signed a transformative, we became part of the transformative agenda of a very large bank in Hungary. Of course, they're present in 10 other countries as well. It's OTP Bank. And they are in the process of modernizing their, not just their core platform, but also their lending stack. So we were chosen over others to be the provider of choice for them. In addition to that, a Turkish bank in Austria, Vakif Bank, also chose us for very similar reasons.
Wow.
And I'll explain the reasons. And for their requirement to meet their banking requirement, and for Hungary and as in Austria. And then we also have a different flavor. We work with the largest e-commerce company in Europe. It's Otto, and they are headquartered in Hamburg. And not that we are providing them a marketplace solution. What we are providing them is the loan management capabilities for them in terms of when they are in a position to offer lending capabilities to their customers.
Right.
When somebody comes onto their site, they're in a position to offer them, let's say,
An
BNPL
instant
solution.
lending solution.
The servicing of that loan component and
End
its
to end.
settlement
Right.
happens in our system. And I learned very recently that on the last Black Friday day, we must have booked about 600,000 plus loans.
Wow.
On the
Okay.
platform. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great learning. And in fact, I think the use case that you're sharing here is so implementable and adoptable by so many other markets who are really working towards this direction, right? And this also brings me to another dimension of what you're doing at Europe market. You're also looking at venturing into the space of housing societies. Would you want to share what you're doing in that space, and what's unique about that segment?
Okay, so before I come to housing society is very unique to the UK. Housing and building societies, as you would
Right.
call it, are very unique. It's a misnomer. You would think it's a society to run a building, but
Right.
actually these are financial institutions, and they are
Okay.
classified under the category of building societies. But before I respond to that, my own observation is that Europe is sitting on technology that are legacy. There are a lot of financial institutions that have come up in the recent past, and they have come up in the recent past either in the form of neobanks or in the form of fintechs, or many of these banks launching their digital native subsidiaries.
Right.
However, a big change that's happening in Europe is a need for them to move into instant payments. And it's like UPI in India. And instant payments for them really today is that it has to happen on an account to account rail. And
Right.
European Commission has made it very clear that it has to be settled in 10 seconds, a payment has to be made. And there are some
Wow.
very strict timelines. Now, for this to happen, it's going to impact legacy systems, it's going to impact payment systems. So there is a need for banks in Europe, and I'll come to UK in a second, where they have to really reflect on what is going to be their strategy, how to deal with the legacy core. Obviously, you can't change the legacy core overnight.
Right.
So one of the propositions that we have made to the market, and we've been getting some very good conversations going, is the ability for us to offer what we call as a multi-core strategy.
Okay.
Multi-core along with instant payment capability is something that we believe can make a difference. It essentially kind of tells them that there is a way to do things, and they don't have to be threatened that they have a legacy system and what do they do with the legacy system without getting into
Right.
specifics. So we have some very interesting conversations going. The other area where we believe there is a good opportunity for Europe, again worldwide we find that the biggest marketplace and the GDP of every country is driven largely by SMEs, and it is SMEs that generates 20% of the bank's revenues. However, they've had challenges. Banks, because of the nature of the SMEs, their credit worthiness, the ability to evaluate them, always has been a bone of contention for banks. So there are a lot of fintechs that are offering SME capabilities, SME
Okay.
banking capabilities, which means that customers would slowly shift away from banks to the fintechs.
Fintechs.
What would the
Right.
banks do? So we have these capabilities where we can offer not just SME banking capabilities, ability to offer basic trade finance, ability to offer we have what is called a next generation generative AI platform. Because Germany, for example, is all about paper. So, and it takes time.
Right.
And then there are regulations governing SME banking itself. They need to make a lot more provisions. They need to make provisions keeping in mind that tomorrow, if they were to collateralize these and package it and sell it off, they have to provide. So it affects their capital, the bank's
Absolutely.
capital. So all these things needs to be looked into, and we have a proposition that addresses these in the market. And coming back to UK, UK is again it's the financial capital of the world, and a big part of the financial ecosystem is driven by building societies, and building
True.
societies are serviced by tech stack that are pretty old. They have been there for a long time,
Are
and
there a
they're
lot
also
of technology players playing in that zone?
there are people offering different tech stacks. So
Right.
there are companies that offer specialized services to building societies.
Okay.
Having said that, there are opportunities for them to modernize their tech stack, and we have some very interesting offers, because understanding building societies also means understanding the mortgage servicing part of it. So,
Absolutely.
and together we can actually offer them. The iCredit 360 platform does that. It understands every single aspect of what the requirements are in terms of credit. It could be a mortgage,
Absolutely.
it could be personal loan, it could be auto loan, it could be home loan, motor finance, you call it.
So we have a complete gamut of services under that
We
plan,
have, yeah.
right?
So, and all this is what we call as the eMACH.ai open finance platform. Arguably, this is the largest open finance platform because it services the requirement of not just a retail bank, but of a universal bank. So it services the requirement of a retail bank, a corporate bank, etc., so on and so forth.
And that's great to know. And just coming towards my last question for the market, AI is disrupting the way banking may be in coming days, and that's what we've been hearing a lot of conversations, right? So, do you think the wave has already reached Europe? Are banks open to adopting it? And what do you think our readiness is? You spoke about iCredit 360. We've also heard that iCredit 360 as a solution is now enabled with AI as one of the proposition, and it's
Yes.
just one of the many other solutions
Yes,
that
yes.
we have.
No, very interesting question, Mithu. You can't have a discussion with a bank if you don't have AI capabilities, which means your conversation, your solution proposition is always with an embedded AI. And for AI to be successful, you need to have access to a lot of data. And data is residing in the legacy systems of those banks. So the ability of any solution provider to be able to extract the data is where the art is. So if you're able to get access to quality data and then be able to marry it with your what you call as intelligent agent capabilities,
Yes.
then it is possible for us to provide a very comprehensive capability to the bank. So just let's go back to our own tech stack. Our tech stack comes with embedded AI. So it comes with embedded AI where
That's good.
the whole idea here is to make sure that for every officer of a bank, there is an AI agent that can actually think like him, talk like him, work like him, behave like him, approve like him.
That's really a great story to know.
Yeah.
Case, anything else that you feel you would like to share with our viewers?
All of us have heard every provider invariably has a lot to share with a customer. What differentiates, what essentially matters to a customer is whosoever is able to say, are they able to deliver? Essentially walk the talk, right? And that's where we've seen that, we make a significant difference out there. We have a long road to go. There are a lot many opportunities out there. One of the things that the customers have said is that from the time you met us first and to the solution that you're delivering, we see the promise being kept. And that's what differentiates us in this world today. And that's why we are kind of making some good initiatives, good steps. We have taken some good steps in those markets. And we are being solicited, we are being asked for conversations.
So thank you, Kes, for spending your invaluable time with us, and our conversations cannot end here. We'll keep coming back with you for a lot more interesting tidbits that you may want to share about the Europe market.
Thank you, Mithu, and I look forward to as well.
Great. Thank you, listeners, for staying with us till the end, and keep watching this space for a lot more intriguing and insightful conversations with our leaders from iGCB. Thank you.